So, welcome back to another video. Today I thought we'd do an article about a kind of famous German food called Pumpernickel, which is a kind of bread you eat, and it's pretty what's it called, native to Germany. I think you know what I mean. I think let's just get into it. Pumpernickel. Der Pumpernickel ist ein lange haltbares Vollkornbrot aus Roggenschrot, das ursprünglich aus der westfälischen Küche stammt. So this is the kind of main introducing sentence, like describing the whole thing. This just means der Pumpernickel, the Pumpernickel, so the, I don't know which way to translate that into English, but I think it's the same. Yeah, it's the same, just the kind of bread. I don't know what that derives from, like, I don't know, this pumper, it kind of sounds like to pump something. The verb to pump is the same in German, pumpen, but Nickel, I don't know, that kind of maybe derives from, it's kind of similar to the word Kanickel, which is a very weird or very odd way of saying rabbit, but I don't think it derives from that. Anyways, der Pumpernickel ist ein lange haltbares Vollkornbrot aus Roggenschrot, das ursprünglich aus der westfälischen Küche stammt. The Pumpernickel ist ein lange haltbares Vollkornbrot. Is a long, what's it called? You can haltbar, kind of durable, yeah. Lasting, yeah. I think that you can store it for longer, you know, so I think durable should be kind of the right way to say that. So a long durable whole grain bread, Vollkornbrot. As always, you write the nouns in German as one, so you don't say whole as in English, whole space grain space bread. You say Vollkornbrot as one. So a whole grain bread aus Roggenschrot, as or made from. Aus in general can mean that something is shut off, you know, kind of like light is shut off or turned off, or you know. But in this case, aus means made out of, I guess. Roggenschrot means, I don't know what the correct translation, rye. Interesting. Roggenschrot should be the kind of more, meal, the more, what's it called, bare? No, I don't know if that's the right way. Grob. The rougher, kind of less, what's the right word to say that, verarbeitet, I'm just blanking on the word, processed, a less processed version of that, so it's not like flour, but anyways. Vollkornbrot aus Roggenschrot, so whole grain bread made out of rye meal, I guess, das ursprünglich aus der westfälischen Küche stammt. Das ursprünglich, that's originally, natively, that derives from the word Ursprung. Let me just write a few. Ursprung, which is kind of funny because that just means Ur is kind of like original. You also use that when you say Uropa, you say my grandfather, so the father of my grandfather, you know. But yeah, this is just kind of saying the original whatever, and Sprung just means jump, so it's kind of funny, but anyways, this just means native, or what's it called, origin, in this case origin. So this derives from the word origin and originally, of course. So ursprünglich, the originally, of course the verb is here at the end because it's a what's it called, subordinate clause, I think it's called, Nebensatz. yeah, it's a subordinate clause. That originally, in this case, in English, you would say derives from, or relates back to. I think you know what I mean. The aus der westfälischen Küche, the Westphalian kitchen. Here we also have this aus, which just derives, refers to where something's from, what it's in this case made out of, in this case, where it's from, you know. That derives from the Westphalian kitchen. I think you should know, or you know what Westphalia is if you kind of have gotten in touch with Germany. It's the, like, left, or not left is very kind of childish to say that, the west side of Germany. We have North Rhine-Westphalia, and in general, Westphalian refers to the federal state, I guess, of Germany, one of the 16, the most populated one, I guess. Yeah. Anyways, Herstellung, which is the making, the production. What's the correct way to say that? Let me just check. Production, manufacturing process. Anyways. Nach der ursprünglichen Rezeptur besteht Pumpernickel ausschließlich aus Schrot und ganzen Körnern von Roggen. Die Körner quellen über Nacht in lauwarmem Wasser (Quellstück) oder für einige Stunden in heißem Wasser (Brühstück) auf. You don't have to say in Klammern, as I always say, but you can. Dies ist erforderlich, damit die dichten Körner backfähig werden. In spezialisierten Betrieben wird Pumpernickel nach knapper Gare in geschlossenen Kästen in Dampfbackkammern gegeben und durch Wasserdampf bei ca. 100 Grad Celsius mindestens 16 Stunden lang gebacken. Nach den Leitsätzen für Brot und Kleingebäck des Deutschen Lebensmittelbuches gilt: Pumpernickel wird aus mindestens 90% Roggenbackschrot oder Roggenvollkornschrot hergestellt. Wird Pumpernickel aus Vollkornschrot hergestellt, so stammt die zugesetzte Säuremenge zu mindestens 2/3 aus Sauerteig. Die Backzeit muss mindestens 16 Stunden betragen. So, ja. Nach der ursprünglichen Rezeptur besteht Pumpernickel ausschließlich aus Schrot und ganzen Körnern von Roggen. That just means nach, in general means after, or behind, in general after. In this case it just means according to, nach der ursprünglichen Rezeptur, according to the, ursprünglich, we have that here, original recipe. Rezeptur is kind of a derived form of saying recipe. This is the kind of, which way do you say that? We have the word Rezept, which just means a recipe, and any kind of case, you could say. But Rezeptur is just the kind of more general. You can also use that for, like, perfumes and the body care stuff, you know. This is kind of the more general way of saying that. Nach der ursprünglichen Rezeptur, according to the original recipe, I guess. Let me just translate Rezeptur if there is a more correct way of saying that. Yeah, I guess recipe is just the way to say that. Besteht Pumpernickel ausschließlich aus Schrot und ganzen Körnern von Roggen. Besteht derives from the word be, which is just a prefix. Besteht, stehen, just means standing, but bestehen means to be made out of. In this case, besteht Pumpernickel ausschließlich aus Schrot. So it's made, Pumpernickel is made out of ausschließlich, which is kind of, I wouldn't say weird that this word is the way it is, because ausschließlich just means only. Aus Schrot out of, I guess it's meal or whatever. Schrot can also mean like that the stuff you put in guns to shoot at someone. There's some kind of a powder or something. That's the way you say that in German, but this is, I think, just the kind of whole meal. I don't know if it's translating correctly, but let me just pull up a picture. Schrot und Korn, yeah. That just means Schrot. Yeah, that is, I think this is just the kind of thing. Anyways, besteht aus Schrot ausschließlich. I was just saying it's kind of funny because ausschließlich, in general, ausschließen, which is kind of, it's deriving from, means to, what's it called, to accept, or let me just translate that. Ausschließen, also a word with different meanings to it. Ausschließen, to exclude, that was what I was looking for. In general, it means to exclude, but when I say ausschließlich, it's kind of the opposite, that anything but. So it is made out of or consists of just or only Schrot, which means what was I saying? Whole meal, you know, that was what I was pulling up. Und ganzen Körnern, and whole grains, von Roggen, of rye, I guess. That should be the correct translation. Rye, yeah. So, according to the original recipe, Pumpernickel consists only, or yeah, I think that's, yeah, only of, I guess, wholemeal, or whichever you want to say that, whichever way. Wholemeal and whole grains of rye. Ja. Die Körner quellen über Nacht in lauwarmem Wasser in Klammern Quellstück oder für einige Stunden in heißem Wasser in Klammern Brühstück auf. The grains, die Körner, quellen über Nacht in lauwarmem Wasser in Klammern Quellstück. Quellen, which way do you say that in English? Swell, spring, sources, sie quellen auf. That's the way you say that, just referring to them, to the seeds, kind of, the grains. So, die Körner quellen über Nacht in lauwarmem Wasser in Klammern Quellstück oder für einige Stunden in heißem Wasser in Klammern Brühstück auf. I'm just gonna translate that word by word. The grains, I don't know if swell is the right way to say that. Quellen über Nacht in lauwarmem Wasser, I guess swell on, or whichever way you want to say that. Overnight in lauwarm, it's kind of room temperature. That's the way you say that. Lau just means a bit warm in this case, but in general you mean like it's just slightly warm. Water, in Klammern Quellstück. Quellstück means, in general, Quell means a source or something that is swelling on. This can also mean like a source on the internet. This can mean a source in terms of water. But in this case, Quellen means to swell on, I guess. Auf. Quellen. Yeah, swell up, well up. I think you know what I mean. Or soak in water. That's maybe the right way to say that, but they swell on. Quellstück, so in this case, this could either mean, but I know what it means in this case, that is something which is a source of something, because Stück just means part. This part means part. But in this case, it of course refers to the swelling up, you know? So this is just referring to the whole word for that. That is the, I mean, it's kind of weird to say that, but the swollen up part, I guess, of the bread. Oder für einige Stunden in heißem Wasser in Klammern Brühstück auf. Or for many or a few hours in hot water. Frühstück just means to, what's it called? Brewing parts. Let me just translate that. These are in general kind of specified words for that, so I don't necessarily always know what this is, but I'm trying my best. Brew piece, yeah, I guess that's the right way to say that. Oder für einige Stunden in heißem Wasser, in Klammern Brühstück auf. I guess it's just referring to the kind of way you make this bread, because you can either put it into water overnight, into not too hot water, like just a bit warm water, or slightly warm water, or you can like do the, I don't think it's kind of like the cooking kind of way, but the like hot water kind of way, where it's faster but you have hotter water. And that's the brewing part, that's the swelling part, I guess. Yeah, so the grains swell overnight, or swell overnight in hot, let me just translate lauwarm. I guess it's kind of slightly warm. Lukewarm water. In brackets, swelling part, or for a few hours in hot water, in brackets, brewing part. Or brew part, oh yeah. Dies ist erforderlich, damit die dichten Körner backfähig werden. Just word by word, this is erforderlich, just means needed, I guess. Erforderlich, sorry. More correct translation. Necessary, yeah. This just derives from the word fordern, so I demand something. Fordern. Let me just write that. To demand something. So erforderlich is kind of word by word, demandable, but you know what I mean. Necessary. This is necessary, damit die dichten Körner backfähig werden. Damit, as I explained, I think in previous videos, just means so that. Not word by word, but yeah. Die dichten Körner backfähig werden. The, what's it called? Dichte Körner. Dense grains, yeah, dense in general. So that derives, not derives, so that's just the word dicht, which is tight or dense. And grains, yeah. So that the dense grains backfähig werden. Bakeable, I guess. Backfähig. Yeah, this is just to be able to be baked. Werden, become, so that they become bakeable, I guess. Sorry. This is necessary so that the tired grains become bakeable, I guess. Let me just translate that, because I'm not completely sure. Confused there. Backfähig. Here. Bakeable, yeah. Yeah. So that is kind of the general thing for that. In spezialisierten Betrieben wird Pumpernickel nach knapper Gare in geschlossenen Kästen in Dampfbackkammern gegeben und durch Wasserdampf bei ca. 100 Grad Celsius mindestens 16 Stunden lang gebacken. So, in spezialisierten Betrieben, in specialized, I think it's production, what's it called? Betrieb. Production halls or something. Not the halls, but businesses. I would say businesses. And specialized businesses, but more kind of referring to the place. But yeah. Wird Pumpernickel, it is being, refers to the passive form, because there is another main verb. Wird gegeben is being put into something. But this in general, by the way, means to be given, but in this case it means to be given into, but we're gonna get to that. It wird becomes or is being Pumpernickel nach knapper Jahre after small, let me just knapp is a bit meager, scarce I guess. After scarce, Jahre in this case is a very, I think, specialized word for that kind of what's it called, for that kind of part of the baking. I don't know if you know what I mean, but this is not a word that you use in normal kind of circumstances in terms of baking. This is a word that is special for or specialized for these kind of baking processes, and that, according to Wikipedia, means the time to, what's it called, gären, ferment, I guess. To, yeah, in this case, ferment. Even though in German there are two words to say that, either fermentieren or gären, which is kind of, there are slight differences, but anyways, so after scarce fermenting time, I guess, in this case, that is what I'm thinking this means. Enclosed, in geschlossenen Kästen, enclosed bucket, I guess. Kästen should mean buckets, if I'm not completely, yeah, or boxes. In Dampfbackkammern gegeben, so that was I was referring to, into steam baking. Let me just translate that. This is very special, a very, what's it called? Very unique. Steam baking chambers, yeah. Sagt man das? How do you say that? Excuse me if I'm kind of confusing the two languages. What was I referring to? Spezialisiert. Yeah, specialized. That is a very, I think you know what I mean if I say specialized. But yeah, word. So in specialized, I think like, what was I saying? Businesses, workplaces. Anyways, the Pumpernickel is being put into these steam baking chambers after scarce fermenting time in closed boxes und durch Wasserdampf bei ca. 100 Grad Celsius mindestens 16 Stunden lang gebacken. And through, or in this case it means to do something via, to do something durch Wasserdampf, by water vapor, you could say. So, but to do something by something, in general this means through, like a preposition, I'm going through the tunnel, but ich gehe durch den Tunnel, but in this case that just means to do something by doing something else, you know, or by just something else. So, and by water vapor, by circa 100 Grad Celsius, at approximately 100 degrees Celsius, mindestens 16 Stunden lang gebacken, at least 16 hours long baked. So it is being baked by water vapor at a temperature of approximately 100 degrees Celsius, being baked for at least 16 hours. Next sentence. Nach den Leitsätzen für Brot und Kleingebäck des deutschen Lebensmittelbuches gilt. That we also have another example of that. Nach in general means, as I explained, after, but in this case, according to the Leitsätzen, you could read that as like the leading sentences. That is what it means word by word, but I think there is another way of saying that. Because that means like the, what's it called? The guiding principles. That is what it's meaning. It's just a Russian word like leading sentences, but there's of course not the way you would say that in English. Guiding principles, and that is not like referring to necessarily sentences, but referring to something you put up somewhere. Yeah, like you put these guiding principles. Anyways, according to the guiding principles for bread and Kleingebäck, probably like smaller baked things, not probably, but this is referring to like smaller pastry of the German Lebensmittelbuch Foodbook. Lebensmittelbuch, of course not referring to the to a like lexicon, but I think kind of, because there's more of the here is saying it's a collection of guiding principles where you make kind of rules which way you have to bake some things or to process certain things to be in the I guess in the kind of, what's it called, spectrum of being, that is very weird saying it like this, but like this is the right way to bake something, unless if it's not baked this way, this is not this product that you're trying to make, you know. I think there is something very famous also for beer, like the thing, what's it called, Bayerisches Reinheitsgesetz or Bierreinheitsgesetz, which was put up something in 16, I don't know, Bierreinheitsgesetz, and I think this is just the, of course, Google also writes it incorrectly, Reinheitsgebot, which is, let me just translate that for you, purity law. This is the kind of thing for beer. 15 somewhere, where they only, I think, drank beer and didn't drink water because the water was too dirty or something. Anyways, I think this is just the same way of saying this for general, like pastry and something. Good. So this just means there's a verb. What does it say? Good. Good. I don't know, it applies, yeah, or is considered. So that is like saying, this is the rule for that. Pumpernickel wird aus mindestens 90% Roggenbackschrot oder Roggenvollkornschrot hergestellt. So Pumpernickel is being out of at least 90% Roggenbackschrot. Let me just translate that. Too lazy to kind of explain that, but this is basically, I think, the same kind of thing with a slight difference. Referring to the rye meal, rye baking bran, I hope it's correct. This is just, the difference is, I think, something with bacon and something with whole grain, because of Vollkorn and Back. Or Roggenvollkornschrot, which should be the whole grain version. Whole grain rye groats. Yeah, I think it's kind of difficult to translate that into English correctly because this always means something else, but yeah. Is being produced or made of these kind of things, these rye whole grain or rye baking groats or meal or whatever, of 90%, so this is kind of one of the laws. Dann wird Pumpernickel aus Vollkornschrot hergestellt. So this is kind of an if clause, if sentence, but without an if. Wird Pumpernickel aus Vollkornschrot hergestellt. So is it being, of course the passive form, because there's another verb, is Pumpernickel out of whole grain, what's it called, whole grain meal, or, you know, Schrot. This is what I was pulling up the picture earlier. Is it being made out of the whole grain groats or meal? So stammt die zugesetzte Säuremenge aus mindestens 2/3 zu mindestens 2/3 aus Sauerteig. So in general this means to root from somewhere, but this is saying it is made out of. Stammen. So it is made out of, in this case referring to the zugesetzt. Put in, also put in there, what's it called? Zugesetzt. Added, yeah, of course. I'm blanked on that word. So the added, what's it called? Säure acids amount. I don't have a clue what this is referring to, but I think it's kind of explaining itself, but not really. So the added acid amount has to be, or in this case word by word, to at least 2/3 out of sourdough. So in general this means the added acid amount has to be made of or consist of at least 2/3 of sourdough. I don't have a clue what this means in general, because 90% and the acids amounts, I don't know, but I think if you dive deeper into the topic of Pumpernickel, you understand that. Maybe it's the 10%, but I'm not quite sure. That is left after the 90%. Die Backzeit muss mindestens 16 Stunden betragen. Oh, by the way, to explain that sentence in general, if it's, because this is in general an if clause, but you can say that without an if in German. Is it being, I mean, you could probably also kind of say that in English, but yeah. Is Pumpernickel being made out of whole grain groats, I guess? So the added acid amount has to be, so stammt die, in general, translating that, has to be consisting out of at least 2/3 of sourdough. So the amount of it has to be at least 2/3 made of sourdough. Die Backzeit muss mindestens 16 Stunden betragen. The baking time has to be, or has to at least 16 hours. Betragen is a word you say in general to refer to amounts, so it has to be at least 16 hours, I guess. So the baking time has to be at least 16 hours. I think we're gonna leave it at that for today. Leave a comment, leave a like if you want to. Yeah, as always, if you have any questions or recommendations for further topics, yeah, just write in the comments. And yeah, see you in the next video. Bye!